Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley McManus, Senior Director of Global Marketing at SmartEye. Welcome to the Human-Centric AI podcast, where each episode we will interview a thought leader doing cutting-edge work in the AI space. A little bit about us. For over 20 years, SmartEye has developed AI in the form of eye-tracking technology that understands, supports, and predicts a person's intentions and actions. By carefully studying eye, facial, and head movement, our technology can draw conclusions about a person's awareness and mental state. Our eye-tracking tech is also used in the next generation of cars, commercial vehicles, and providing new insights for research within aerospace, aviation, neuroscience, and more. So today's episode features two industry experts from a company called VI-Grade. We first spoke with Guido Bairati. As Vice President of Global Sales and Marketing, Guido helps VI-Grade customers streamline their design process and bridge the gap between physical testing and simulation by implementing tools that allow CAE engineers and test drivers to work together earlier in the automotive development phase. Then we have Tony Spagnuolo, VP Business Development. Tony has over 30 years experience in the international simulation industry. Prior to VI-Grade, Tony led the worldwide sales team for HPC cloud computing startup Rescale. He also led the aerospace sales team in MSC Software and managed operations at Nevada Automotive Test Center, an innovator in highly mobile ground vehicle technology for commercial and defense applications. In our conversation, we talked a lot about how driving simulators can help accelerate product development, the complex human dynamics involved in vehicle simulation, the role eye tracking and interior sensing plays in that. So let's listen in to learn more. Thank you so much for joining. With me today, I have Guido Bairati, Vice President, Global Sales and Marketing at VI-Grade, as well as Tony Spagnuolo, VP Business Development at VI-Grade. Tony and Guido, thank you both so much for making the time to speak with me today.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's start with your background. What has both of your career paths been to VI-Grade?
Okay, let me start. I can say that I started my career in 1995 as an automotive consultant at Volvo Car Corporation in Sweden. Then I moved to a software product development job at Mechanical Dynamics. And then after seven years in technical jobs, I moved to a sales job selling simulation software. So simulation has been part of my entire career. I joined VI-Grade in 2008 as a sales director, and during all these years, I contributed to make VI-Grade becoming a leading company in real-time simulation and driving simulator market.
Great.
Yeah, and I started my career at a major OEM in vehicle dynamics, went to a tier one supplier, then worked for Mechanical Dynamics, the same company that Guido went for. I went through various transitions from technical to sales, ended up in Japan, starting up what was called MDI Japan at the time. And then after we were acquired, I went and managed a proving grounds for a while. So I got to experience real world testing, a lot of military stuff. This was, when things were happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. So that was quite interesting. And then moved on to work in selling to financial services and got to see the 2008 bust on Wall Street live and in action.
Wow.
Saw the personal ramifications from that. And then moved on to a startup. Went back to MSC Software and sold simulation software again, and then worked for a startup for 5 years and saw the full cycle of sort of infinite spending with zero revenue and startups, and then building that up. So that's an exciting challenge. And now I'm back at VI-Grade. It's really great to be back in the simulation space because it's really changed. It's now the merger of simulation and hardware, where before what it was just the simulation side of it. And now when you combine the hardware with it, you really find out, whether your models work well or not. So this is a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about your company. What's the pitch for VI-Grade?
We can say that VI-Grade provides simulation software and driving simulators that help our customers to bridge the gap between simulation and testing. What does that mean? It means that finally automotive engineers and test drivers can work together and exchange feedback in real time during the development process. And this helps them to reduce the time to market and to reduce the amount of money that are spent during the development cycle. And at the same time, increasing the innovation content on the car that they are developing.
Just to add to that a little bit, we're involved in the transformation of taking proving grounds testing into the laboratory. So the ability to combine hardware and software together into the subjective experience, is very critical. And that will come up in a couple of times in this conversation today.
Yeah.
Let me add one thing. Traditionally, 20, 25 years ago, when Tony and I started working in the simulation world, the simulation world and the testing world were really divided. Actually, they never had any point of contact. Now what we are doing, thanks to the driving simulators, is to bring the two worlds together. So the test drivers can really test a vehicle even before a first prototype is built. And very often now, the first prototype that is built, it's a kind of pre-series car, and it's built very late in the development process.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great. So last year, actually, you had put out a press release announcing a partnership with eye tracking partner SmartEye. For those who haven't seen it, can you break down a little bit about what that announcement entailed?
Yeah, we started working with SmartEye, if I'm not wrong, 5 or 6 years ago. Okay. But last year, we have strengthened our partnership and make it more formal and more stable. And this partnership will allow an enhanced driver behavior research for automotive development by including eye tracking. Eye tracking, it's we will talk about that a little bit later, but it's one of the most important components when you want to see and study how the driver behaves while in a car. Mm-hmm. In this partnership, we believe that enables global OEMs to understand the driver behavior on a deeper level than before. Mm-hmm. Driving simulators are used more often for drivers' behavior studies and to know what the driver's reaction are during the driving, or even when you are a passenger. So collecting those information is very important. The next step will be also to interpret those signals, and from those signals to understand the driver's emotions. And we're already working on that as well.
Excellent. So also in your release, but more generally, I think your product, VI Biotelemetry. I don't know if I said that right. Can you talk more about what that does and how it works?
Yeah, we call it the VI Biotelemetry. VI because it's a VI grade product. Biotelemetry because allows. First of all, it's a mix of software and hardware, which allows to collect the driver's bio signals while the driver drives on a simulator. In theory, it could also be used on a real car, on a prototype. Mm-hmm. And all different bio signals are collected and synchronized with the vehicle signals. This makes it easier to correlate driver's reaction to what happens on the car. Just to give you an example, if we simulate a flat tire or a sudden obstacle, then we can see how the driver reacts to those unexpected events. And the type of biosignals that we are collecting are the skin response, the high activity. We also track the head movements, and we collect information about heart rate.
Mm-hmm. Great. So who are your products intended for? I think you mentioned OEMs earlier, but are there additional companies?
Yeah, we're almost exclusively focused in on helping product developers transform, the way they're doing testing. So these are manufacturers, the OEMs, tier ones, service providers, and so on. So, there's many different segments to the simulator market, right? There's operator training, there's development, there's research, and so on. So, with some exceptions, about all of our customers are around product development or or research. So if you take a look at Polytechnico Milano, a customer that we're going to talk about later on, they're a research institute, right? And they have a simulator, but they're predominantly helping manufacturers. So that's really our primary focus.
Got it. Okay. So how can someone try it, or where can they get it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to say all our customers are from Missouri, the show me state. So, it's very critical that they can see it. So we developed these simulation centers, one in Udine, one in Detroit, one that we just opened in China. There was a press release on that, where customers can go and experience our simulators, right? So they get firsthand experience before they buy one. They can also use that as a service. So, before they buy one, they can do projects on it and so on, or even after. So it's fairly common today, even when we sell a customer a simulator, that we're in the simulation center training them before we install their simulator, or they're using it on projects. This becomes a valuable asset, both for us and the customers, because they get to try it, they get to experience it. And, it's one of the advantages of being owned by a large conglomerate. We're owned by Spectrus. They're a large company. This is a very capital intensive business. So this affords us the advantage of having a strategic owner who can provide the capital for these simulation centers. They're not cheap to build, but it's a valuable asset for us and the customers to have.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could also talk to a little bit more about the process in building it. It sounds like a fascinating, structure and training, all these different pieces going into it.
Building the actual simulator?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's a mixture of construction and installation. So, the first step of the process is, we provide a series of specifications to the client, and many times it involves either building a new building or modified building, to accommodate all the different components. And so once that building is ready, then we go in, and there's videos on this that show this, but first you install a very heavy base plate, very exciting. Level that to extreme precision, because the simulator actually runs on an air bearing. And then the actual mechanics and the actuators of the simulator, or the cables, in the case of the cable simulator, are installed in all the associated motors. And then all the cabling comes together, hooked up to the computers. We try it out and turn it over to the customer, ready to use the day we leave. So a lot of people are involved in that, a series of our suppliers, subcontractors, direct employees, and so on. But it's a little bit like an orchestra, right? The whole band plays together ultimately to play a piece of music that's quite beautiful in the end. So it's quite a process. Guido would probably have a little bit more to add to that. He understands. He's been involved in many of these.
It's definitely a kind of a teamwork. There are a lot of different components, but key components of our technology has been designed and engineered by us. In some cases, we also have some patents. But we are also buying components and technology from reliable partners like Smart Eye. And then really the added value of VIA-grade solution is the product integration, the system integration, and the way to make all different pieces working together, hardware and software. Because when you have to give someone the feeling that is driving a real car, everything must be as real as possible.
Right, absolutely. So what role does eye tracking technology play in the concept of your products?
Well, it's an important role. I think we as human beings say a lot of things through our eyes. So looking at our eyes when we are doing a different task in a car allows us to get a deep insight about the product that we are developing. If we are developing, for example, a new infotainment system, or if we are interested to see how the driver interacts with all the instrumentation, I think it's extremely important to understand where the driver looks at while driving, how much he gets distracted. And if we are instead studying drivers' reactions, it's important to look at the driver in the eyes because, again, we can learn a lot. So it's one important component, together with the other signals that we are collecting typically in our driving simulators.
Now, how did you arrive at Smart Eye's technology to help you achieve your vision?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have kind of three things that we focus in on: unique, complete, and open. So we have an open system, right? We believe open ecosystems are very important. But the reality is we get into these new technology areas, we typically start with one partner. And usually that partner is somebody who's highly technical capable and willing to work with us as a partner to sort of understand how to apply this in our domain. So Smart Eye, highly capable product, great team. Willing to work with us at our simulation centers to let customers experience it. So it's a great partnership. You really can't say, geez, I'm going to offer everybody's product and really figure out how to make this work. Customers expect to have, that we have an idea of how this works and that we can demonstrate this and show this. And, we need our open partners to be able to do that. Smart Eye, has been fantastic in that regard.
Awesome. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what your metrics of success are, or what your goals are, and if eye tracking technology contributes at all to those goals.
Well, our ultimate goal is to make the vehicle product development shorter, easier, and cheaper. And of course, a metric for our success is the number of simulators that we are selling to our customers, the number of simulators that our customers are using in their product development. And since the number of simulators used in order to study drivers' reactions is increasing, Smart Eye solutions are becoming an important part. Very often when we talk to customers who are looking for a simulator for HMI studies or for drivers' reaction studies, being able to tell those customers that we are partners of Smart Eye, it's a key differentiator.
So which features of VI Grade's applications and products are you most excited about?
Well, we're heavily focused. We have a number of domains. We call them attributes. We're focused on with the clients, right? Vehicle dynamics, ride, MVH, HMI, motorsports. Motorsports isn't quite an attribute, but that's the way we kind of phrase it. And we've had a really strong introduction with new simulators for MVH. That's the basic vibration of a vehicle. Mm-hmm. When you feel the steering wheel vibrate or you feel the seat vibrate. So that brings more of the subjective experience into it. And the more of the subjective experience you can make realistic, the more realistic the human body measurement becomes. So this becomes sort of a spiral. The more you can expand in terms of creating that subjective environment, the more realistic the measurement is. Okay, so all these things sort of come together. So is there one thing in particular? Not necessarily, but this is sort of it's sort of like a tornado. It expands, into this big funnel, and it just becomes an exciting movement to watch customers get very excited about now being able to do this in the laboratory, because that provides huge benefit for them to be able to do that, not just financially, but also the collaboration amongst the various groups. And I can't emphasize that enough. As Guido said earlier, these were sort of silos that didn't really participate together. In some case, competed against each other. Now they come together and they have to solve that mission together. That's a great thing for the companies.
Awesome. So can you speak to the dynamics involved in vehicle simulation? Why is it important, especially for engineers, and how the human element plays in? Why should automakers care about this?
The trend is, among others, is to reduce the number of physical prototypes. We mentioned already at least a couple of times in this conversation. And we have customers who told us that the driving simulators allow them to perform 90% of the development in simulation with driving simulators before building the first prototype. We do have customers who have managed to reduce the development time by 50%, and customers who have reduced the number of physical prototypes by 40%. Those are impressive numbers, especially if you translate those percentages in money. But behind those percentages, there are huge savings in terms of expenditure for product development. And you ask how the human element, why the human element is so important. At the end, the success of the car is decided by the driver. Yeah. How the car handles, how silent the car is, how easy is the car to be driven. And that is, at the end, a subjective interpretation, so it's very important. Some people think that with the coming of autonomous vehicles, the subjective feeling won't be important anymore. I think this is not true. For the acceptance of autonomous vehicles, it's very important that passengers, because in that case, we cannot talk anymore about the drivers, but everybody will be a passenger. It's important that passenger will feel safe, will feel comfortable, and comfortable enough to accept that a robot is driving the car. So even on an autonomous vehicle, fully autonomous vehicle, and we are not there yet, the subjective feeling, the subjective evaluation, the human factor will be extremely important.
Absolutely. And prior to this call, you shared a paper with me on the effects of a fog on a driver's visual profile, and I'll drop a link so listeners can check that out using data from a driving simulator. So I was wondering if you could take us through at a high level the significance of this paper and what impacts simulation initiatives such as this could have on road safety.
Yeah, so you got a fundamental problem with testing, right? Testing is imperfect in the respect that you cannot replicate every environment. So fog, okay. So if I want to go test on a row of fog, I can't just suddenly one day invent fog, right? I got to, run the test when there is fog. Yeah. So in the simulator, right, we can recreate what what sort of visual impairment fog creates, or snow, or other sorts of things, right? It doesn't 100% represent what actually happens in the real world, but at least you can do it on a as needed basis, right? It could be summertime in Michigan, but I can create snow. Okay, this is quite beneficial. You don't have to fly to the outer reaches of Sweden or something to do this. So ultimately, understanding what drivers do in these sorts of environments is extremely important to understand, what sort of systems you create, what sort of audible reminders, and so on. I mean, today, it's a little bit distracting when you get into a rental car that's got a different set of chimes and other sorts of things for lane keeping and so on. So the significance is the fact that you can do it, the fact that you can do it on demand, the fact that you can replicate different environments, rain, snow, and so on, adhesion, in cold weather conditions. So that's really the significance of it. Something that you can't, in reality, you cannot do as easily in testing without a great amount of money and expense.
Right, definitely. And there was another video that you shared, and again, I'll drop it in the show notes so people can check it out. And it compiled a number of very technical presentations on how different components of drive simulation came together from an engineering perspective. Can you summarize this content? I believe it's from the Politecnico di Milano. Maybe perhaps honing in on benefits and the applications of eye tracking tech and simulation to help improve road safety and the driving experience.
Yes. Until now, we have mentioned that driving simulators are a tool for test drivers, engineers, and that is pretty much the area of the market in which VA Grade acts. We are providing driving simulators for product development used by professional drivers and engineers. The characteristic of this activity by Politecnico di Milano was instead to expose this technology to, let's say, common people, common drivers, and see how those people react to different driving conditions and different vehicle conditions. And again, the eye tracking was a great way to monitor their reaction on different situations. And one of the challenges we have is to develop driving simulators which are as realistic as possible, so that a normal, let's say, driver like you and me can jump on it and immediately believe in that he's driving a real car.
So what is the next step for VI Grade?
Well, we've done some exciting things. We acquired a company in Florida by the name of Concurrent Real Time, and they were supplying, the real-time computers for VI Grade, but that really wasn't the motivation. The motivation was to continue to expand the envelope of the solutions that we can deliver around the driving simulator. So you'll see a lot of interesting stuff in terms of how we incorporate hardware in the loop and so on in the simulator, because now the simulator becomes the test area. So that means a lot of different components will come together, ECUs, different sensors, and so on. So you have to be able to accommodate that in that framework, and Concurrent does that. That doesn't preclude our open strategy. It doesn't mean we're going to try to supply all things to all people, but it does become a key component to the technology. And, there's a number of different simulator segments, right? There's operator training and so on. So, we're taking a deep look at that and how we can create an overall architecture to potentially be successful in those as well. So more to come, but, the really exciting thing is the addition of a fantastic company in Florida, Concurrent Real Time. We're real happy to have them on board, and we see exciting things. We were just at the start. We acquired them July 1st, so we're just at the start of things.
Very cool. So also based on your experience, do you have any advice for those looking to build interior sensing capabilities for next generation vehicles?
Yes, of course. Use simulators instead of doing road testing. That's our advice. And also, if you look at autonomous vehicle companies, they do a tremendous amount of road testing for several different reasons. One is also because they have usually a lot of money, while instead they could run most of those activities in a laboratory. Doing those testing activities on a simulator in a laboratory is a more repeatable process. It is safer because sometimes, we all heard about accident involving some autonomous or semi-autonomous cars, so it's not very safe sometimes. And it also costs less money than just driving millions of miles on a real road, which is actually, by the way, impossible. It's many people already demonstrated that it's impossible to develop an autonomous vehicle without relying a lot on simulation and driving simulators, because the number of miles you have to drive, it's so big that it's not enough. You don't have enough roads, you don't have enough drivers, you don't have enough cars in order to do that in a reasonable amount of time.
Great. So last question I have for you guys. Do you have any asks of our listeners?
Yeah, keep following us on our LinkedIn channel. Follow us on YouTube channel. We are publishing new videos about our technology, about our driving simulators every week. And check our website continuously for events, conferences, and new products, new driving simulators that we are introducing to the market.
And that is all I have for you, Tony and Guido. It was such a pleasure speaking with you both, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you to you.
We appreciate the opportunity.
I learned a lot about the importance of vehicle simulation, especially how it can help the various individual components and disciplines that previously operated in silos to come together. It's easy to see how bringing in simulation into the development process early gives engineers the opportunity to test as much as possible, resulting in a more fluid process that collapses the design cycle and saves on cost. The SmartEye partnership with a leader in advanced system-level dynamic driving simulation technology like VI Grade allows enhanced driver behavior research by including eye tracking, which also enables OEMs to have a deep understanding of driver behavior. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our Human-Centric AI podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes. We're also on social media, so please reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram to share any feedback you have on the show. Don't forget to rate us and comment with your feedback to help make this podcast more discoverable for others. Until next time, thanks for listening.